Hello everyone! The size of our universe is staggering, and it leads one to believe that Earth is hardly the only place inhabited by living creatures. Who will we meet in the dark corners of space? Wise allies who will give us new knowledge? Or hostile invaders who will turn us into their slaves?
What's you thinking, Colonel?
At the end of the 23rd century, Earth is under attack by a hostile race of bugs from the Klendat-2 system. It orbits 2 stars at its center, and its strong gravity attracts a large number of meteorites, which the bugs launch toward Earth. Defense systems protect the orbit of our home planet, but it's time to put an end to the attacks. The United Citizens Federation urges young people to join the ranks of mobile infantry to travel to the other side of the galaxy and destroy the enemies.
It's an ugly planet! A bug planet! A planet hostile to life!
This dangerous mission promises various social perks and honorary citizen status, which not everyone has. A year before the first bug attack, high school student Johnny Rico listens absent-mindedly to his teacher, one-armed Lieutenant Raschuk, while the veteran enthusiastically talks about the failure of democracy and the force that citizens with a right to vote have. Johnny is flirting with his girlfriend, Carmen, sitting at the next desk. Only those who have served in the military are allowed to obtain citizenship. According to the teacher, pure force is the only thing that truly solves the problems that stand in the path of humanity. Raschuk asks Rico about the difference between a citizen and a civilian. Rico answers using the definition from the textbook, and the teacher points out that the students won't understand this difference until they experience it firsthand. The bell rings, and Rico and Carmen head to the school bulletin board, where Carmen sees her brilliant score on her final math test. As Carmen walks away, Rico finds that he has failed the test. His best friend Carl mocks him, sharing the embarrassing result on the big screen for everyone to see. He then asks Rico how things are with Carmen, and notes that their other classmate Dizzy is also in love with Rico. But Rico only wants the ambitious and intelligent Carmen, and no one else. Carmen dreams of becoming a starship pilot. Later, the students dissect an alien bug in biology class. The teacher points out that insects are superior to humans in many ways. They multiply in vast numbers and engage in combat as a single mind, without experiencing fear or selfishness. While Rico removes the sticky guts of the bug, Carmen struggles to hold back her nausea. With disgust, she argues that humans are much smarter because they created art and mathematics. The teacher retorts that the evolution of bugs and the strict hierarchy of their society allowed them to successfully colonize new planets. Rico hands the girl the bug intestines, and Carmen can't keep herself from throwing up. Jealous Dizzy is gloating over that. Later at his home, Carl tries to see if Rico has psychic ability, but Rico is as bad as he is at math. Turns out that some people have psychic powers in the future, and Carl assumes that this is a new evolutionary feature. As proof, he demonstrates his gift by using his mind to make his mischievous pet ferret go to the 2nd floor.
Oh, I gave him the impression there's a grub crawling up my mom's leg. He's on a mission to go eat it.
Rico worries that his friend might try his psychic powers on him. Carl assures him that he can't do that on humans, yet. The next day, Carmen is cheering in the stands for Rico, who rushes forward with the ball. Rico dodges a defender's jump, who crashes right into the crowd. Rico makes a touchdown to the applause of the crowd, and Carmen helps the defender, whose name is Xander, get up on his feet. He takes advantage of the moment and wonders what Carmen is doing after the game. Carmen is going to the dance, and Xander replies that he can't join her. Tomorrow, he flies off to the Tereshkova Military Space Academy. Carmen expresses her desire to attend the academy too, and thinks Xander is cool. Xander gets back into the game, and Rico confronts him for flirting with Carmen. As the game goes on, Rico gets distracted, allowing his opponent to knock him down. Xander catches the ball and leads his team forward. Annoyed, Rico goes for a timeout with his team, where their captain Dizzy explains her plan. Xander, meanwhile, is flirting with Carmen again, which enrages Rico. The game begins, and Dizzy knocks down the opponents, throwing the ball to Rico. Xander fails to catch up with him, and Rico brings his team victory. He gets the glory and a kiss from Carmen, and Xander walks away with nothing. As Rico is dressing up for the dance, his father discovers an enlistment brochure in the mail. His wealthy parents want their son to go to Harvard and discourage him from joining the military. They believe Raschuk gave Rico this idea, but Rico assures them that it is his own choice. To defuse the situation, his father suggests they fly to the constellation of the Outer Rings, where Rico has long wanted to go, and Rico agrees. As soon as the dance begins, Dizzy wastes no time taking Rico's hand and pulling him onto the dance floor, before they embark on their separate journeys to different corners of the universe.
Can't we just be friends, Diz? Sure.
The girl suggests giving them another chance. Rico leaves Dizzy with Carl to talk to Razchuk. He thanks his teacher for inspiring him to join the army. The student asks what would Razchuk do if he was in Rico's place, since Rico's parents don't want him to be enlisted. Razchuk says he taught them that the point of making choices is to make them themselves. Rico finds Carmen chatting with Xander again. Rico holds back his emotions and acts politely, taking Carmen for a dance. Xander will become a pilot, and so will Carmen, and Rico admits to being jealous. Carmen assures him there is nothing to be jealous of, and kisses Rico. He admits that he too has decided to join the army, and this makes Carmen very happy. The following day, Rico, Carmen, and Carl arrive at a military institution to receive their assignments. Carl is assigned to the Military Intelligence Division. Carmen fulfills her dream of becoming a pilot, and Rico is going to join the infantry.
Good for you. Mobile infantry made me the man I am today.
The three friends make a vow to stay friends no matter what, even though they were assigned to different divisions. When Rico returns home, his father demands he resigns from the academy. He threatens to cut his son off, but it doesn't work. Rico wants to become a citizen, but his mother suspects that he is making a rash decision because of Carmen. Rico gets angry and leaves. The next day, Rico meets Carmen at the airport. She feels sorry that his parents did not support him, and Rico confesses his love for her. With much hesitation, she eventually says she loves Rico too, before saying her goodbyes. The TV of the future shows a military service commercial that features small kids, announces public executions of criminals, and invites everyone to take a psychic ability test. A report showing mangled bodies warns Earthlings not to try to establish settlements in the quarantine zones where the bugs are rampaging. Rico finds himself at the recruits camp where their drill instructor, Sergeant Zim, calls them a mindless bunch of apes. This makes a recruit named Kitten Smith laugh, for which he gets to run laps. Zim challenges the recruits to try and knock him down, and the tough-looking Breckenridge volunteers. With one move, the drill instructor knocks him to the ground and breaks his arm. Suddenly, Dizzy, who transferred from another unit, shows up to join the rest of the recruits. She claims she did it because this unit trains the best soldiers. Rico isn't happy to see her. Zim asks Dizzy what makes her think she's good enough for his unit. In response, Dizzy takes off her jacket, inviting the instructor to join a sparring session. She manages to punch Zim in the face before he takes her in a chokehold. In the cafeteria, a cocky guy named Ace cuts in the line, and Rico demands he sticks by the rules. Tension is rising, but Ace likes when people have guts and offers Rico to become his pal. Dizzy wants to sit down with Rico, but Rico is not happy that she follows him everywhere. The girl is offended that Rico thinks she only joined the infantry because of him, and leaves. At the obstacle course, Rico and Ace argue over which of them will be a platoon leader, and Dizzy overtakes them and knocks them down into the dirt. Later, Ace is perplexed why they practice knife throwing.
Who needs a knife in a nuke fight anyway? All you gotta do is push a button.
Zim tells Ace to put his hand on the wall and throws the knife that impales his palm. Zim says that the enemy cannot push a button if you disable his hand. In the shower, Kitten asks everyone why they joined the army. Breckenridge didn't want to become a farmer like everyone in his family, and Dejana wants to get into politics, so she needs a citizen's passport. Some guys serve to get into a prestigious university for free, and girls serve to get permission to have children more easily. Rico refuses to answer, and Dizzy says teasingly that he's here for the girl. Rico walks away in silence. He tries to record a video message for Carmen, but his fellow recruits cheerfully interrupt him. Carmen laughs after receiving Rico's message and runs off with her friends to the spaceship. They take off from the moon and fly through a huge battle station that protects Earth's orbit. Carmen enters the huge transport ship, where she meets Xander, who will be her assistant instructor. He immediately reveals that he made sure they would run into each other. Carmen assumes command of the vessel and skillfully maneuvers it just 10 feet away from the station. Engaging the hyperdrive, they chart a course for Jupiter. Meanwhile, Rico and Dizzy find themselves on the same team with the objective to capture the enemy flag. Ace's team suppresses them with fire, and Dizzy suggests they pull off a combination from their football game, leading Rico to victory. Zim promotes Rico to squad leader. Later, Rico thanks Dizzy for her help and shakes her hand as an act of reconciliation. He then receives a message from Carmen from Jupiter's orbit. She is going to devote her life to piloting ships, which means they can't be together.
Write me, all right? Write me so that I know we'll always be friends.
A saddened Rico confesses to the others that he joined the army because of Carmen. Ace reminds them that the platoon leader shouldn't get discouraged. Soon, Rico is leading his fellow soldiers in a live fire training exercise. Breckenridge complains that his helmet is broken and is blocking his view. Rico takes it off to fix it, but then Dejana gets hit by a laser and accidentally pulls the trigger, hitting Breckenridge in the head. Rico is relieved of squad command for the mistake that cost his fellow soldier's life. Dejana can't handle the guilt and resigns. Zim stands up for Rico, so instead of being discharged, they take him to the parade ground and subject him to administrative punishment as an example to the others. 10 lashes later, Rico's back bears deep cuts that serve as permanent reminders of the grave mistake he made. Meanwhile, Carmen demonstrates to Xander her talent by changing the ship's route to a more efficient one. Xander admits he's bested and announces that their captain has officially invited them to become part of her crew. He says they work well together and hints that he wants to be more than just colleagues. Suddenly, they discover that an asteroid is heading straight for them. The pilot swiftly grasps the controls and abruptly tilt the ship downwards, causing one of the compartments to collide with an asteroid and break away into outer space. Xander informs the captain that an asteroid has arrived from the Arachnid quarantine area. She orders to contact the fleet right away to warn them, but communications are down due to the crash. The captain thanks the pilots for the rescue. Back at the camp, Rico decides to resign because he thinks he's not worthy of the service. Dizzy tries to talk him out of it, but they are interrupted by the boy's parents, who call by video link. They are glad their son is coming home, but suddenly the lights in their house go out and the connection is cut off. A frustrated Dizzy calls Rico a wimp and leaves. As Rico walks to the gate, he sees anxious soldiers rushing to the screens. 12 million people have died because of an asteroid launched by bugs from the planet Klindatu. Dizzy and Rico are shocked to see their home destroyed. Zim asks to be sent to the front lines, but the commander refuses because the drill instructor would be more useful training a huge wave of recruits. Rico also asks to take him back.
Major, I know it was wrong. I didn't learn from one mistake and I made another, sir.
After hearing that his family and friends have been destroyed by bugs, Zim rips up the guy's resignation letter. The Federation Council declares war on insects. Carl appears on TV, explaining that it is not enough to simply blow off the limbs of the bugs, so it's better to aim at their nerve stem. Soon the troopers arrive at a military base, from where they will be deployed for further attack. A reporter tells that the asteroid attack may have been provoked by the human invasion of insect territory, and it's believed that a retreat might defuse the situation. But Rico and the others are eager to go into battle to kill off as many bugs as they can. They want to get matching tattoos, and then Rico hears a familiar voice. Carmen calls out to him and notices that he is not very happy to see her. They are both saddened by their hometown's destruction, but the girl is still confident in her decision to break up with Rico, since they will definitely not be together during the war. Xander, who is Carmen's teammate now, shows up, and Rico assumes that this is the real reason Carmen broke up with him. Xander insults the troopers for their lack of manners. Rico chooses not to fight him, as he is an average private, while Xander holds the rank of an officer. However, Xander boldly invites everyone present to disregard ranks and dares Rico to fight him. Rico immediately punches him in the face, but Xander responds with a wrestling hold and a flurry of punches. Rico's fellow troopers pull him out, and Carmen walks away with Xander. The troopers spend the last night before the fight getting skull tattoos and drinking. In the morning, they board their ships, and en route, Carmen sees plasma beams, which her captain doesn't consider dangerous. But the military intelligence has made a mistake, and the bug's attack proves to be precise. Several ships are destroyed, and 2 huge carrier ships collide with each other. Carmen steers them away from the collision, but a plasma beam hits the cockpit, hurting the pilots. The troopers make it to the surface and find giant bugs launching plasma beams. They successfully blow them up with missiles and advance. Rico's platoon is attacked by a soldier bug, who kills one of Rico's fellow soldiers. The troops fire back at the monster, but 100 more insects show up. Ace, who commands the platoon, freezes, and Rico rallies everyone behind him, ordering them to open fire. After losing another soldier, Rico decides to retreat, realizing that they will be overwhelmed by numbers. The ground collapses beneath the soldier girl, and the bug climbs out of the underground tunnel to drag her down with it, shattering her hopes of having children. The reporter selflessly continues to report and gets torn in half. The cameraman captures this moment for the audience. Kitten falls behind and gets slashed in half by bugs. Rico stays behind to get revenge on the bug, and it pierces his foot on its dying breath. Rico squirms in pain, but quickly grabs his rifle and fires back at the approaching monsters. The first enemy collapses from the wounds, but the second comes very close and opens its jaws to tear Rico to pieces. The next day, it becomes clear that the attack on bugs has completely failed, and the surface of the planet is strewn with countless bodies of dead soldiers. The Sky Marshal resigns, and the government makes an effort to better study the aliens. Carmen's wrecked ship returns to base. She got her first combat scar. They see a whole graveyard of destroyed spacecrafts.
How could this happen?
We thought we were smarter than the bugs.
The pilots walk past the bleeding, wounded soldiers to a board where Carmen sees Rico's name on a list of casualties. She leaves with tears in her eyes, but it turns out to be a mistake. Rico has been pulled out and is having surgery on his leg. Dizzy and Ace mock the helpless guy, who's floating in the green goo behind the glass. In 3 days, he'll be good as new. Before leaving, Dizzy kisses the glass. After recovering, Rico and his friends join a new squad called the Roughnecks. They killed the biggest number of bugs during the landing. Rico immediately declares that he wants to be their sergeant, and Ace makes a joke about their lieutenant. Corporal Birdie punches him in the face for this, and everyone cheers in support because the lieutenant has saved their lives more than once. The one-armed lieutenant enters the compartment, and Rico recognizes him. It's his high school teacher, Razchuk. The lieutenant greets the new recruits.
Everyone fights, no one quits. You don't do your job, I'll shoot you.
The next day, one of the planets of the bug system is attacked from the air, after which Razchuk's troops mop up the area. Soldier Watkins is finishing off the enemies with particular ferocity. Seeing a burrow where the insects come to the surface, Rico fires a missile into the ground, collapsing a cave and killing hundreds of bugs. The squad surrounds and finishes off the last of the enemies. But then a huge tanker bug shows up. It scorches the girl's arm off with a jet of fire, and Razchuk drags her away. Rico climbs the cliff and jumps onto the giant bug's back, piercing its armor with an automatic round. He holds onto it like a bull rider, then throws a grenade inside the wound. He jumps down, and the tanker bug is blown to pieces by the explosion. Razchuk is impressed and promotes Rico to corporal. Rico appoints Ace as a squad leader, but he refuses, saying he's had his chance. And then Dizzy gets the rank. In the evening, the lieutenant allows the soldiers to celebrate their victory by pulling out beer and other entertainment. Dizzy asks Rico to dance, but he refuses. Seeing this, Razchuk tells Rico not to pass up the opportunity, so Rico changes his mind. After the dance, he and Dizzy are alone together, and the girl confesses her love to Rico. Rico silently kisses her back. They are interrupted by Razchuk because they have received an urgent distress signal, and the squad must move out to help. Seeing Dizzy, he gives them more time to pack. Roughnecks land on the planet, but the squad they expected to rescue doesn't respond on the radio. Out of nowhere, a flying bug swoops in, snatches the radio operator, and carries him away. Razchuk takes aim and kills the guy so he doesn't suffer. If the lieutenant ever finds himself in a similar situation, he wants everyone to do the same to him. Razchuk promotes Rico to the rank of sergeant, and soon they reach the base. All personnel are dead. Razchuk orders to take away the corpses, take up defenses, and set up communications. In the mess hall, they discover the tunnel, through which the bugs have taken the soldiers on the base by surprise. Rico sees a bug under the table that reminds him of the ones he dissected in biology class. Razchuk shows Rico a dead soldier with a huge hole in his head. The insects seem to be studying the humans too. Inside the refrigerator, they hear noise, and General Owen emerges from it. The terrified man assures them that he couldn't let the bugs take him prisoner, and the enemies are much smarter than expected. He confirms that bugs are studying people's brains.
They made Farley call headquarters.
The distress call was a trap.
They're just like us.
Razchuk urgently commands everyone to get ready for the fight. Owen, who has been under unbearable stress, yells that they are all going to die. The lieutenant punches him in the face to make the general come to his senses, to which the general asks Razchuk to shoot him. Rico stops Razchuk from doing that, and everyone runs to repel an attack by a huge army of bugs. They manage to hold them off, but the flying insects breach the defenses and kill several soldiers, including General Owen. Rico runs to the radio and asks them to send their best pilot to get them out of a hopeless situation. Meanwhile, Razchuk sees the endless hordes of bugs and commands a retreat to the center of the outpost. Roughnecks stand back to back, shooting their last rounds and losing soldiers one by one. Finally, a dropship lands behind them, and Xander runs out of there, helping to push the enemies back with fire. The soldiers rush inside the ship, while Razchuk accidentally stumbles into a deep tunnel underneath created by the bugs. Rico and Dizzy pull out a lieutenant screaming in pain. He has lost both his legs. Razchuk orders to put him out of his misery, and Rico puts a bullet through his heart. A tanker bug emerges from the hole, and Dizzy throws a grenade into its mouth. The bug's head blows up. She celebrates her victory, but is attacked by another bug, which pierces her right through. Rico and Ace drag badly wounded Dizzy to the ship. The two soldiers that manned the tower fail to escape the volley of fire, and Xander commands to take off. Dizzy dies in Rico's arms. She says she accepts her fate because she was with the man she loved. She closes her eyes, and Rico kisses her goodbye. Xander gets into the cockpit, where he tells shocked Carmen that her friend is alive, and he's aboard with them.
Get on the comm and tell Fleet to blast that rock. On whose authority, Corporal?
Rico has assumed command, and Xander sends a request, but the captain refuses. As another major operation is underway, Rico leaves in a rage. Dizzy is buried with honors, her coffin ejected into outer space. Afterwards, Carl, who works in military intelligence, shows up in the compartment. He tells Carmen and Rico that they knew about the trap, but had to make sure that there were intelligent insects on that planet. Perhaps this is the planet where the brain center of all bugs is located.
And every day I have to make decisions that send hundreds of people like you to their deaths.
Rico replies that that's what infantry are for. Carl sees that Rico is ready to go back and finish the job, and appoints his friend to command the dangerous mission. The infantry arrives on a hostile planet, taking Razchuk's place as the commander of the Roughnecks. Rico tells the recruits the lieutenant's only rule: everyone fights, no one quits. The bugs start shooting plasma beams, and Carmen's ship comes under direct fire, falling apart in half. The crew makes their way to the escape pod, and in the process, the captain is killed by a door falling on her. She orders Xander and Carmen to run away, and they manage to leave the burning ship at the last moment. Another beam blows it up completely. Carmen contacts Rico, confirming that she survived, and flies to the surface in a pod. The Roughnecks see the pod crash into the rock and fall into the bug tunnel. Xander arms himself while Carmen gives Rico the coordinates to get them out. The pilots begin shooting back at the surrounding monsters, and Xander is wounded in the leg. Rico hears Carmen screaming over the radio and decides it's too late to save them. But for some reason, the bugs don't kill the pilots, only wound and hold them down. The Roughnecks enter the tunnel system. At the fork, Rico decides to split from the group with the two volunteers because he feels Carmen is still alive. Ace and Watkins follow him, even though their actions might be seen as violating orders. Meanwhile, the bugs carry their colony leader out of hiding. The monster approaches Xander, who secretly hands Carmen his knife.
Someone like me is gonna kill you and your whole race.
The creature raises a sharp claw, pierces Xander's skull, and sucks out his brains. Carmen refuses to succumb to the same fate and swiftly severs the bug's feeding tube with a knife. The bugs don't have time to retaliate against her because Rico comes out from around the corner, threatening to blow up the colony leader with a bomb. He takes Carmen away, and the brain bug retreats to the cave. The bugs attack the soldiers, and Watkins is mortally wounded. Before he dies, he demands that they give him the bomb to cover his friend's retreat. He blows up the tunnel, and the three survivors make it to the surface. Since they relayed the coordinates of the brain bug, the rest of the Roughnecks manage to catch him. The bug is brought to the surface, and Carl approaches the creature. He senses its fear. Rico suspects that Carl has used his psychic powers to tell him that Carmen is alive. Carl replies that it is classified information. The three friends walk away, and the scout commander announces that Zim has caught the brain bug. He gave up his officer rank after all and went to the front lines. Rico approaches the former drill instructor to congratulate him. After capturing the brain bug, military intelligence studies the monster to learn how to defeat the bug race. Carmen becomes captain of her own ship, and Rico continues to lead the Roughnecks on new missions. When filming the shower scene, director Paul Verhoeven and the cameraman also stripped together with the actors, who were uncomfortable at first. Following the movie's release, Paul found himself pondering why this particular scene was subjected to excessive censorship and criticism, whereas people were fine with the extremely violent scenes depicting the deaths of 256 soldiers. To make the CGI bug chase scenes more realistic, the director himself chased the actors with a broom and yelled at them. Verhoeven called Starship Troopers the most expensive art house movie in history, with a budget of $105 million. At the same time, the film is quite different from the book it was based on. Many critics believe that the novel openly promoted militarism. According to the book, one could become a real citizen only by serving his powerful state bravely and faithfully, whereas the movie seems to mock this idea. As always, check out the name of the movie in the description below. In the meantime, tell us in the comments, how many different kinds of bugs did you notice in the movie? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button to see even more cool recaps.